and shrimp. Basically chickpeas, potato, and shrimp. Before we get to seasoning the shrimp, and this sort of technique I'm showing you is going to be a little bit different than what your granny would have. You would have seen your granny or your mommy or your auntie or your uncle, who knows? I don't know. Uncle Chris is not the only uncle out there. Anyhow, a little bit different than the sort of traditional way you would have seen it done. Nonetheless, it is super simple and really tasty. With the chickpeas or channa, I wanted to show you all something. This is from a can which has been drained, rinsed, and I've removed the outer skin. And I kept 2 of them here just to show you what I mean. And all you would do is sort of pinch it, and you see this sort of outer skin here. This is from a can. I don't know if I mentioned that, but that sort of outer skin, I don't like it in my curry channa or my curry chickpeas. That there, yo man, there's a word we use in Trinidad and Tobago. We say hoxie, which means it's not that pleasant to really eat. Anyhow, moving on. It does take a bit of work, because all you would do is pour the entire can into a bowl with water, then you would use your hands, rub against it, and those things would easily come out. You fill the bowl with water, and the sort of skin that you saw me have there, because it's lighter, it will float to the top. You'll just grab it, skim it out, toss it. I have here 3/4 pounds of shrimp, which has been peeled and deveined. It's been washed with the juice of half of a lime and cool water. It's been sitting in the fridge. What I'm going to do is season it with a tablespoon of Caribbean green seasoning, a teaspoon of curry powder. I notice I'm holding back some. The full recipe will be available at caribbeanpot.com. That is the printable format I'm talking about. Salt. Don't go too heavy with the salt at this point, because we can always, well, we will add more salt later on. And fresh ground black pepper. There's no need to marinate this overnight or for an hour or anything. All you would do is give that a mix, but we do need one more ingredient in there, and that is some olive oil. I'm gonna put a tablespoon of olive oil, actually a tablespoon and a half of olive oil in here, and we're gonna give that a good mix now, and then it's a matter of firing things up in the pot. My pot is on a medium flame, but it's still cold. It's coming up to temperature, so I'm gonna add that seasoned shrimp, marinade and everything in there. Save the bowl. What we're going to do is quickly cook this for about 1.5 minutes or so, and later on we'll reintroduce the shrimp back to the proceedings, because we don't want to overcook the shrimp. If we add the shrimp too early, it will overcook. If we add it too late, let's just don't worry about overcooking that shrimp. And this is how you do that. What I would recommend you do is save this, and once you take the shrimp out, you will put it back in here. Don't worry about cross-contamination, because once the shrimp go back in, it will have enough time for it to fully cook and get rid of any sort of cross-contamination. It's been about 30 seconds, and I've already stirred it a couple times, and you can see how quickly it's starting to change color. It's starting to tighten up and close up. I'm just going to give this another 30 seconds. Make sure you flip them over. Then we're going to remove them, set them aside, and then continue with making this wicked curry potato with chickpeas and shrimp. Channa and aloo with shrimp, boy. Channa and aloo with shrimp, you know? So I think it's where it's supposed to be there. So now I'm going to quickly grab them out of the pot. And man, the kitchen is already smelling wicked, boy. Yikes. Just putting it in a clean bowl, because I know a lot of you get scared off when I mention cross-contamination there. What I will recommend you do is put 2 cups of warm water in the same bowl where you marinated that shrimp there, or where you seasoned the shrimp. Remember, we didn't really marinate it, okay? I turned my heat down to medium low because I don't want to burn all those flavors that's in there, and I'm going to go in with a bit more of that olive oil, so another 1.5 tablespoons of that olive oil. If you wanted to use coconut oil or vegetable oil, whatever oil you prefer using, I just love using, you know, olive oil. I mean, it's in the price, begging me to stop, but I ain't stopping. No sir. Onion, garlic, Scotch bonnet pepper, and I'm using an entire Scotch bonnet pepper. Totally up to you how much Scotch bonnet or any sort of spicy pepper that you like using. You can rock that. Some more of that black pepper, more of that Caribbean green seasoning. And Caribbean green seasoning, if you're new to Caribbean cooking, is a sort of a blend or a puree of all the herbs we like using in our dishes. So I'm just gonna hit that to stir, and along with herbs like thyme, shadow benny, parsley, Spanish thyme, which is the big leaf thyme, or purina. I also have seasoning peppers, which is also called pimento peppers, and a ton of garlic in there. But again, the full recipe for that green seasoning, as well as the recipe for this curry Channa and Aloo with shrimp, is available at CaribbeanPod.com. More curry powder, ground masala, turmeric. All of those spices I just rest in the pot there can be found at your local Caribbean grocery store. I'm sure online at caribshopper.com you can find it there as well. And all I'm going to do is sort of fry or wet toast all of those sort of spices, because remember that curry powder is made up of about 6 or 7 different spices as well. We want that to sort of toast and bloom and bring out all those lovely flavors before we continue. I remember, I don't know if I mentioned earlier, I have 4 large potatoes already peeled and I cut into about 1 centimeter or so pieces, sitting in water because I don't want it to discolor. I'm just gonna, my heat wasn't low, I'm just gonna turn it up just a little bit more because I really want that to toast. It's been about 6 to 7 minutes since we started. Here's where now I'm gonna start adding the potato, and because of the water in it, you're gonna hear that little and that water is gonna help to deglaze the bottom and pull out all the fond. Yeah, curry does make fond too. With that to stir, just to coat the pieces of potato with all of that curry loveliness that we have on the bottom there. And in the process, the water from the potato, as I said, is going to sort of deglaze the bottom of the pan by removing all the stuff-on bits that's there, and that is pure, nice flavors. It's time for salt. Later on, you'll be able to adjust the salt to your own liking. And one of the reasons why I usually rinse the Channa or chickpeas after it comes out of the can is because that brine is high in sodium. So by rinsing it, I remove some of that that sodium. I have to live long to keep dropping the recipes in all your rock-a-tung-tung. This is the only way. I have to be healthy. Toss in that chickpeas in there now. That water I asked you guys to put in the same bowl where we marinated, where we seasoned the shrimp. So 2 cups. I need 1 more, so 3 cups of water in total. Turn your heat up to medium high, and all we got to do is give that a stir. Bring this up to a boil, and then it's just a matter of cooking it until the potato is nice and tender, which is about 20 to 25 minutes. Remember, we already have the shrimp sort of pre-cooked, so we don't have to stress too much about that. It won't take long to come up to a boil. You don't want it on that sort of rigorous boil that you're seeing there. So what I'm going to do is turn my heat down to medium-low and just let that sort of between a simmer and a rolling boil, because the idea here is just mainly to fully cook the potato to the point where it's falling apart. That's going to start helping to thicken the sort of sauce or the gravy. And I urge you, head over to CaribbeanPod.com. I've shown you guys how to do sada roti. I've shown you guys how to do pepper roti. I've shown you guys how to do dal puri and bus up shot or paratha. You gotta raise the heat just a little bit higher. Is the best for this in my humble opinion. But 20-25 minutes. Shrimp, finish it off with a little more spice, a little bit of greenery. Best thing. 23 minutes later, and here we are. At this point, the potato should be fully cooked. Notice how it's starting to fall apart. And what I forgot to mention earlier is that a few pieces of the potato I cut a bit larger because I wanted to hold its shape. The rest of it is going to fall apart. It's going to thicken things up. Now, if your sauce or gravy, whatever you call it, is a bit too thin, what you would do is using the back of your spoon, you would just go against the wall of the pot here, crush that, and that will help thicken up things. Additionally, what you must pay attention to, or you should keep in mind, is that as this cools, it will thicken further. Turn my heat down just a little bit more. Plus, this is a cast iron pot that's glazed, and I know People always talking about, Chris, you need to wash your pot. Chris, you need to get new pots, because at the start you would have seen the discoloration at the bottom there. That is called a fond. Ain't worry about that. Mind all the business. This is not the Food Network. This is my everyday working kitchen where Polly and my daughters, we cook and we eat and ting, and just for the generosity of my heart, I share the recipes with you guys. So stop hating on Uncle Chris and his pots. That is, yo, don't fret. That's how it's supposed to be. But anyhow, taste it at this point for salt. Adjust the salt to your liking. And I want to go in with a bit of some roasted jeera. Some of you call it cumin. For a herbal finish, we've got cilantro, which is coriander. And if you're lucky and you live in the Caribbean, or you have access to shadow benny, which is culantro, that is even better in my humble opinion. I'm gonna turn my heat down again. Give that a quick little stir. We're gonna add the shrimp in there. We're gonna give it a stir. Turn off the stove altogether and let the flavors from the shrimp make its way into things without overcooking that shrimp. We don't want Wrigley's chewing gum shrimp. We want nice, plump, juicy, tender shrimp. In goes the shrimp that we pre-cooked earlier. Give that a good mix. Turn off the stove. Give that further mix. And there you go, ladies and gentlemen, you've just made. Sup, soldiers? Listen, if you enjoy this recipe, I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and click that bell notification thing. If you've made the recipe, take a picture and send it to me. Email address down here. I mean, trying to tell people the email address, them butts will take the address and do all kind of thing with it. And tag me on Instagram at Caribbean Pot. I really appreciate you guys, and thanks for being in my kitchen with me today. Irie. Curry chana with aloo and shrimp for our best little meal here. Well, this is not a big meal, I'm telling all that, because you see, nice big pieces of potato. The chana held its shape. Quite a bit of it disintegrated in there, but that's all part of the fun. Make sure you have some kuchela. If you know mango kuchela, you need mango kuchela and that bus up short roti. If you don't have mango kuchela, well, listen, head over to CaribbeanPot.com. While I do have that mango kuchela recipe there for you all, I also have, if you're based in northern climates, I have an apple kuchela recipe. Well, you're gonna just love that. Just look at that now. Proper thing, so yeah.